So Deep Purple's first single from SPLAT arrived this week. Arrogant Boy. I've been living with it for several days now, and I have opinions. I built a rubric. 10 categories, each out of 10. By the end of this video, Arrogant Boy will have a number out of 100, and you'll know exactly how I got there. I know this is completely ludicrous, but hey, it's fun. You can download a copy of the rubric in the description. Use it and tell me what your score is in the comments. So let's go. Here's how it works. 10 categories: musicianship, songwriting, vocals, lyrics, production, innovation, the Deep Purple signature sound, emotional impact, cohesion, and replay value. Each category gets 1 of 4 scores: 2.5, 5, 7.5, or 10. There's no sliders, and there's no like 7.3. You commit to a tier and you'll live with it. The lowest possible score is 25, and the highest is 100. I'm going to use the same rubric for every single off SPLAT and for the full album review. So whatever Arrogant Boy scores today, that's the bar the rest of the album has to clear. Right, so let's get into it. Category 1, musicianship. 10 out of 10, and I don't give that lightly. The rubric for 10 here says a performance we'll still be talking about in 10 years, and I think this performance qualifies. Listen to what the band is doing on this track. McBride's fast, rhythmic riff, and like a lot of people have said, it's a throwback to Highway Star, but I think it's much more akin to Hard Lovin' Man, to be honest. And the fast keyboard guitar runs are as precise and engaging as anything in recent memory. These guys have been playing together long enough to be able to read each other in their sleep, and you can hear it. Nobody's overplaying, and definitely, as with all Purple, nobody's coasting. So every part is exactly what it needs to be, and the parts are interesting. This is a band that sounds energized, so that's kind of the headline. Category 2, songwriting. 10 out of 10. The rubric here is that it belongs in the same set list as the classics and holds its own. That's a high bar. We're talking about a band whose classics include Smoke on the Water and, well, in the set list, Space Truckin' or Lazy. Can Arrogant Boy stand next to those? I think it can. Not because it sounds like them. It doesn't. But because it has the same structural confidence and instrumental prowess. This isn't a song that meanders. It knows where it's going from the first bar. If they put this in the set list between Lazy and Space Truckin', it wouldn't feel out of place. So that's a 10. Category 3, vocals. 7.5. Now here's where I have to be careful, because Gillan is fantastic on this track. Genuinely fantastic. So why isn't this a 10? Because in the rubric, a 10 says that Gillan finds something unexpected, and he doesn't. He's doing what Gillan does, and he's doing it really well. The phrasing is sharp, the delivery is committed, and there's a real personality. But there's no moment where I went, I didn't know he could still do that. 7.5 says strong delivery with real character. And that's exactly what this is. A great Gillan vocal, not a revelatory Gillan vocal. And I'd rather be honest about that. Category 4, lyrics. 7.5 out of 10. This one's interesting because I think the lyrics here are fantastic. So why not a 10? The rubric says lines that will be quoted. And these lyrics are somewhat interpretive, I suppose. They're a puzzle, not a hook. I actually read the song differently from how other reviewers take it. To me, this one is about a very specific person. And since this isn't a political channel, I will leave it there. Lyrics that reward reflection and interpretation are doing the real work, but they're not quotable the way that, say, Sweet Child in Time is quotable. You don't walk away humming a line, you're walking away thinking. 7.5 is solid writing with lines worth quoting. I think that's right. The writing is excellent. The lines just aren't built to be shouted at the back of a stadium. Category 5, production, 10 out of 10. Bob Ezrin has done a beautiful job here. The rubric for 10 says exceptional, everything exactly where it should be. Listen on the headphones if you haven't. I mean, the separation is clean and the low end has weight without being muddy. The guitar tones are purple tones. Pace was right when he said this album has the best drum sound he's had. And Gillan's voice sits, I don't know, I find it just more comfortably in the mix this time around. This sounds like a record that was made by people who know exactly what Deep Purple is and is supposed to sound like in 2026, which is to say, like Deep Purple. Category 6, innovation/creativity, 7.5 out of 10. This is where the band gets credit for taking risks, but doesn't quite, get into that 10 out of 10. The 10 says genuinely surprising, pushes into new territory. The song doesn't push into new territory, but what it does is rediscover something. There's an openness that I haven't heard from Purple in a while. There are some genuinely modern textures in there, such as the keyboard guitar tones when they're playing together. There's a sprinkling of R&B, and even McBride's guitar melody in the chorus. But rediscovery isn't discovery. The band is playing with something they've had, not finding something they've never had. This is still impressive. It gets a 7.5. Fresh approach, takes some genuine risks, but it's not redefining what Deep Purple can do. Category 7, Deep Purple signature sound, 7.5 out of 10. And if you played this for someone who'd never heard the band, they couldn't tell you it was Deep Purple. If you played it for someone who has heard the band, they'd know within 10 seconds. But here's the thing. It doesn't sound like a Purple cover band trying to recreate 1972. It sounds like Deep Purple now. The Hammond is there. The riff sensibility is there. The vocal phrasing is unmistakably Gillan. But there's a current-day confidence to it that you wouldn't have heard on, say, Whoosh. As much as I love Whoosh, I find that to be a little bit more of an introspective record. This is not. Category 8, emotional impact, 7.5 out of 10. Now, okay, on this one, I want to be completely honest about it because this is the most personal score on the card. The 10 in this category says stops you wherever you are when it comes on. And I have to tell you, I don't really know any song that does it to me. That's not a knock on Arrogant Boy. That's me. That's how I'm wired. And a 10 in this category for me would be, really almost impossible to give. Arrogant Boy is genuinely engaging. There are real moments of power in it. The 7.5 is emotionally engaging, real moments of power. For me, the feeling is basically I feel pumped when I listen to this song. It's not the song's job to make me cry. It's the song's job to land, and it definitely lands. If you're someone who does get stopped in your tracks by music, this might be a 10 for you, and I'd love to hear about that in the comments. Category 9, Cohesion, 10 out of 10. The rubric says tight, purposeful, nothing wasted, and this song is exactly that. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. There's a lot in there with no filler. You could trim the song by seconds and it would probably be worse. You could add 10 seconds and it would be probably worse. It's the length that needs to be. That kind of editorial discipline is the mark of a band that knows what it's doing and a producer who knows exactly when to stop fiddling. Category 10, replay value. I gave this one a 10 out of 10. The rubric says, days later, you still can't stop reaching for it. And that's been my experience with this song. I've listened to it a lot already, and I'm not done. Every time I listen to it, I enjoy it more. The drive, the lyrics, the playing. And what separates a good single from a great one is the great one rewards repeated listening, and Arrogant Boy does that. So, let's add it up. Musicianship, 10. Songwriting, 10. Vocals, 7.5. Lyrics, 7.5. Production, 10. Innovation, 7.5. The Purple signature, 7.5. Emotional impact, 7.5. Cohesion, 10. Replay value, 10. So that's 87.5 out of 100, which means excellent. So it's not a masterpiece, and I want to be clear about why. A masterpiece on this card is 90 or above. Arrogant Boy gets to 87.5. The gap is in the 7.5s. The lyrics are fantastic, but there's nothing unexpected there. And the lyrics reward thought, but don't beg to be quoted. The song engages me, but it doesn't level me. And the innovation, I guess, rediscovers rather than discovers. But the bones of the song are tens: the writing, the playing, the production, the cohesion, and the replay value. All tens. This is a brilliantly built piece of music, played by a band that sounds like it remembers why it's a band. In my hopes video, I said I wanted SPLAT to sound like a band that was hungry, that cooks. An Arrogant Boy answers that. Yes, this sounds like a band that's hungry and a cookin'. 87.5 is the bar. The rest of SPLAT has to clear it, or not, I guess. We'll find out together. If you scored the song differently, I want to hear it. Drop your numbers in the comments. Every category, not just the total. Let's see where we agree and where we don't. So when the next single drops, I'll be back with the same rubric. Full album review when SPLAT lands on July 3rd, so subscribe and don't miss it. Have a great day.